everybody, and welcome. I'm Frank Dominguez with WDAV, here with our special guest, Barbara Krumdieck, who I'll introduce in just a moment. And I'm here to welcome you to a special edition of our virtual small batch concerts that we've been doing for the past few weeks. Today's is on a Thursday instead of a Friday because today is Public Radio Music Day, and I wanted to tell you quickly about that. We all know how important news and information stations are for public radio, but the music stations like WDAV are also important in playing a role. They give access to music formats such as folk, blues, independent rock and pop, jazz, and of course classical. And they also connect their audiences with local artists, ensembles, and concert series. Here at WDAV, we've been doing that since 1978. We describe our mission as building community focused on classical music. And these virtual small batch concerts are the latest way we pursue our mission in response to the current situation. Before we begin, I want to say thank you to some folks. Free Range Brewing, of course, they have lots of options available these days for pickup, and you can order online and they bring it right out to your car. And to test that out, I made my way down to Free Range to pick up one of the brews, and I can vouch for its deliciousness and for how easy and convenient it is to have them come out to the car and bring you the wonderful beer. Also want to thank Carolina Asthma and Allergy, Steinway Piano Gallery of the Carolinas, and Richard Krumdieck. And our musician tonight who's going to perform for you is somebody who deserves thanks as well, because this all sort of came about when she reached out to me about the situation that many musicians find themselves in right now. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. I also want to thank Will Keibel and Mary Latham, our terrific marketing team at WDAV, because it's one thing for the boss to say, hey, we should do these virtual concerts. It's another thing to actually pull them off. And Will and Mary have been responsible for pulling them off. So let's get started. And first, let me ask Barbara, what made you reach out to me and suggest some sort of showcase for musicians that were in the situation that you were in, rendered idle by the current situation?
Well, in mid-March, my colleagues and I found ourselves with the North Carolina Baroque Orchestra. We had so many concerts lined up for this spring, and we were in Charleston, South Carolina, when in mid-rehearsal the project was canceled. And so I came home, and one of my colleagues was with me, and he came here, and we were expecting to do like 10 or 12 different projects over the next 6 weeks, and little by little they just sort of faded away as things were canceled. And so I had the idea that here we have all these musicians with no place to play. And we love to play music for people, so it just seemed like something that needed to happen.
Now, the first selection that you're going to play for us is one that has a very personal connection to you. Tell us what it is and why you wanted to start out with this selection.
This first piece, it's a one-movement piece. It's written by Henry Lebedinsky, who used to live in Davidson. Many people from here will know him. He wrote it on December 21st, 2013. It's called Lullaby for Gracie, and Gracie is my daughter, and she passed away on December 28th of 2013. So he wrote this for her while she was dying, and it's just, for me, it's a really sweet, lovely piece. And I thought it would be a good starting point.
Absolutely. Let's listen to it now. Just beautiful. Gracie's Lullaby by Henry Lebedinsky, as performed by our guest for this virtual small batch concert, cellist Barbara Krumdieck. Barbara, thank you so much. That's lovely. Henry, of course, a good friend of WDAV's over the years when he was at St. Albans Episcopal Church in Davidson, and not so long ago, a visitor to our John Clark performance studio with tenor Reggie Mobley when they did a performance for the Music at St. Albans series and gave us a bit of a preview for that. So lovely to hear that music with a personal connection to you. Next up, you have some Bach for us. So I thought I'd ask you what it is about those Bach cello suites that appeals so much to cellists as well as listeners, and tell us why you have chosen these selections from the first suite.
Well, the Bach cello suites are just so incredibly beautiful, and there isn't a huge amount of, well, there's probably more modern literature written for solo cello, not a huge amount of unaccompanied cello music for the Baroque cello, which is what I play. And these pieces, this first suite feels like my friend, although it's difficult. It's a difficult friend sometimes. It feels like my friend. My first cello teacher didn't allow young students to play the Bach cello suites because she thought we were too immature. So I secretly played it at my house in my living room when she didn't know. And now I'm secretly playing it in my living room in Cornelius. But I guess maybe not such a big secret. So I chose to play the prelude because it reminds me in a lot of ways of the Lullaby for Grace. For me, it's the prelude is extremely vulnerable and tender. It's filled with a lot of feelings, but to me it does not feel intense. And the Allemande was I chose because it's my first secret piece that I played. That was the one that I started out playing. And then I'm going to end the first suite with the Sarabande because that is such an exquisitely beautiful piece. I couldn't resist playing it.
Well, as you get set to start, let me just quickly say hi to folks who are joining us for this Facebook live stream. Rhonda Gray, who says, hello, thank you for offering this concert. Our friend Karen B is out there watching. Allison B. Gore says, thank you for this special concert. And we've got a bunch of friends from WDAV, of course, listening, as well as Clark Goff Jr. and Don Stewart. Don Wilhelm. Susan Bartlett says, we're watching from our garden, enjoying the music and a beer. Thank you for this. Well, thank you for joining us, Susan. And now let's listen to Barbara as she performs the Prelude, Allemande, and Sarabande from the first cello suite by Johann Sebastian Bach. Another wonderful performance from Barbara Krumdieck, the Prelude Allemande and Sarabande from the first Bach cello suite. And we'll hear some more Bach coming up in just a little bit. Barbara, I wanted to take a moment to share with you some of the comments we've been getting, because there's so many and I won't be able to get to all of them. They're coming in so fast and furious, but you want to hear some of them. We have greetings for you from Yvette Harold and Christopher Lay. Also, your colleague Marty Perry is watching, and thanks WDAV and you for making this possible while we're social distancing. We've also heard from Sarah Brunig Anderson, Phil Spray tuning in from Indianapolis, Wayne Strickland, Charlie Watford, cellist here in Charlotte, is watching. Susan Beaumont from St. Albans says Barbara is a treasure. We also have David Wilson, your colleague out in Berkeley, California, thanking you for doing this, and thanking WDAV as well. John Blaker, remembering how you played this long ago in the living room. And J.R. Clark says he'd love to hear a bit more about your Baroque cello. So I'm just passing that along and asking you to tell us what you're going to play next, which is some more music that also has a personal connection.
Yes. The next two pieces were written for me this week by my sister Frances Blaker, who is sheltering at home in the San Francisco Bay Area, as is most of my family. She is a professional musician. She's a recorder player, a conductor, a really fabulous internationally known teacher, and she's a composer. And so when I found out last week that I was going to be playing this program, I called her right away and said, hey, can you write me some pieces? I thought she'd say no. Like, how can I write pieces that fast and then you have time to learn them? But she wrote them, and I think they're really, really interesting and beautiful pieces. The first, it's a set of two. Before I say what they're called, because I don't want to break the moment, I just have to check the tuning on my C string, which I think has gone way up, because my Baroque cello has gut strings. And I just want to make sure it's not too hideous. Okay, so this is a set of two pieces. The first piece is called Standing on the Shore, Morning Mist Slowly Rising from the Lake, Thinking of One You Have Loved. The second piece is a gigue, and it's called Undecided.
selections by recorder, artist, composer, teacher, and sister of Barbara Krumdieck, Frances Blaker. We heard two pieces played by Barbara in this WDAV virtual small batch concert. And what a great pleasure to hear that music. Barbara, I'm going to share some more comments we've gotten on Facebook and some more names from folks who are tuning in to hear you play. Howard Steinfield says thank you to WDAV and Barbara. Joey Noto and Sabrina, your former student, are tuned in. John O'Brien says this is a perfect end of the workday. We also have Frances Blaker herself listening in, and also Beverly Biggs, who's watching from Durham and enjoying cranberry tea. That was a gift from you, Barbara. Also, John Blaker, Carol Okuda, Christopher Gillum, and Don Stewart, Christopher Lay, and many others. Too many to mention all in one break, but wanted to catch up with some of those while we can. Barbara, you have some more selections up next from Bach, and this time it's from the second suite. Why did you want to play these particular selections from the second suite?
Well, I should say that this is the very first time I'll be performing these movements from the second suite. And as I was reading through some of this Bach this week, it struck me that the prelude to the second suite reminds me of standing on the shore with the mist rising on the water. So I thought that was a kind of a cool connection. Of course, you might not think that about that piece, but that's what I think. And then the second suite to me is very, very special. I like this key that it's written in. It's kind of more introspective. It's got some really bizarre harmonies, but so much beauty as well. The Allemande, I'm going to be playing the prelude and the Allemande. And the Allemande, to me, it's like finding joy in spite of sorrow is what I think of with that piece. And we all, at this time in our lives, I think we can relate to that. And I'll play also the two minuets, but I'm going to say something right before those. So first I'll just play the prelude and the Allemande. And I also wanted to have an opportunity to thank WDAV, Frank Dominguez, all the people that are behind the scenes, and all of my friends and family and colleagues who are listening, and all the people that I don't know who are listening as well. I really appreciate your tuning in. WDAV is a treasure that we have. And the fact that they're bringing this music live from our living rooms to yours is really something unique and very great.
Thank you so much, Barbara.
So first the prelude and then the Allemande. So next I'd like to play the two minuets from this suite. The first minuet is in D minor, and it's chock-a-block full of chords. And the second minuet is in D major. And so I was thinking about this, and I thought, well, why would he make this first minuet so hard? It's not something that seems like it would be easy to dance to if you wanted to dance. It feels to me a little like I'm trying to dance while wearing clown shoes. So I thought it was a really interesting challenge to try to play this and make it into something that makes sense and makes people feel something. And so I've been having a lot of fun with these minuets, and I hope you enjoyed them as well.
More lovely performances from Barbara Krumdieck and Johann Sebastian Bach. You're experiencing a virtual live concert with this wonderful artist and with me, Frank Dominguez, and with lots of folks from all around. And Barbara's got a little bit more Bach for us to perform, as well as something from a contemporary composer that you'll find familiar. But I want to share some of the great comments we're getting on Facebook, and there's so many of them that it'll be hard to work them all in. But greetings from all over, Barbara, including Diane Elkenbush in Greenville, South Carolina, Debbie Brown in Rama, New Mexico, Your fellow cellist, John Lewis from the Charlotte Symphony, is watching. And lots of comments for your instrument. Heidi North, WDAV's administrative assistant, says the gut strings really make for an authentic sound, and she loves that about your cello. We hear from Alice Poryoric, who says she wishes you could hear all the applause right there in the kitchen where they're listening to you, Barbara. Sadie Bunch is listening from her front porch in Eastover in Charlotte. We've also got Laura Meyer listening in Concord, Charles Rinker in Wake Forest, North Carolina, Elaine Henderson in Little Rock, Arkansas, and Mom and Merrill watching from El Cerrito, California. They say, go Barbara. So that's just wonderful. Up next, we have some more Bach from you, Barbara. So tell us about these next couple of bourrées from Johann Sebastian Bach.
I decided to play the bourrées from the third cello suite kind of as a fun contrast from the minuets from the second suite. To me, they say something completely different. And since there isn't time to play the suites in entirety, I thought, well, we'll just play little tidbits, and this is one of the fun tidbits that I thought people might enjoy. So these are the bourrées from the third cello suite in C major, which, hold on just 1 second. Gotta make sure the C is in tune when you're playing in C major. Well, it's probably good always to be in tune. So I don't see Frank, but I am finished playing those menu
Back.
There you are, Frank. Hello.
I just wanted to make sure you were through before I
Oh, yeah.
jumped in
Well
again.
done.
You're
Yeah.
going to be finishing up the concert in just a moment with something from a folk musician who had quite a following as a folk musician and then became really well known when his music was used in a Ken Burns documentary. That'll be your tease, as we call it in radio. You folks can look forward to that in just a moment. I do want to take a moment to share some more of these great comments that we're getting on Facebook, including from our fellow public radio colleague, David Borax, who says he's enjoying this as he finishes his workday. David, thank you so much for what you folks are doing to keep the community informed over at WDAV. We've also heard from Jonathan Salcedo, who says it's great to hear you live, Barbara, and he's sorry he won't see you this year at BFX. Also, comments from Jim Heffler, who really enjoys the beautiful music and thanks us for the opportunity to enjoy it from Cleveland, Ohio. We also heard from Phil Spray, who loves the pickups on the beret. And Jim Robinson, who says, thanks for sanity and joy right now. It's really lovely. So thank you all for tuning in, and many others too who left comments that I couldn't get around to. So now to wrap up the program, we have some music from Jay Unger. And if the name isn't familiar to you, you certainly will recognize the music, which was used so poignantly in the Ken Burns Civil War documentary. Barbara, why did you want to wind up with Ashokan Farewell?
I read someplace that Jay Unger said that when he wrote this piece, he was trying to evoke feelings of loss and longing. And I thought that seems appropriate at this time, as something that everybody is feeling in one way or another. So maybe they're feeling loss of work or structure or whatever. They might be feeling a deeper loss of a sick loved one. They might be feeling longing to have a different spouse if they're stuck in the house for too long. Anything. But anyway, it's also just a stunningly beautiful piece of music, and I thought it would be a tender thing to leave on. And before I play, I wanted to also thank you all for joining us today, and thank you WDAV and Free Range Brewing and Richard Krumdieck and the asthma and allergy people and all of those people who make this program possible.
Let's listen then, Barbara.
Okay.
Very moving and poignant music from Jay Unger, A Shokin Farewell, as performed by our good friend Barbara Krumdieck. Barbara, thank you so much for a lovely concert, a lovely program, and a lovely and poignant way to wrap it up. We so appreciate your reaching out a few weeks ago to suggest something like this and agreeing to perform for us. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And it really meant a lot to me to be able to share this with you today. Thank you.
I'm Frank Dominguez, and I want to thank all of you who joined us for imbibing in place with us. And this has been another one of our virtual small batch concerts. We also have to thank Free Range Brewing. As you can see, I have been imbibing in place during the concert and enjoying it greatly. And remind you again that Free Range is open for grab and go. That's exactly what I did with this lovely and well named beer, Happy Thoughts. So I want to encourage you all to support Free Range Brewing. Also, Steinway Piano Gallery of Charlotte, great friends of WDAV over the years that they've been here, as well as their galleries in Greensboro and Greenville, South Carolina. Richard Krumdieck, who very generously has helped us out with these concerts, and also Carolina Asthma and Allergy. I want you to come back to our Facebook page on Friday, April 24th for another one of these virtual small batch concerts. And this time it'll feature guests from Opera Carolina. And if you can't wait until then, Opera Carolina is having another of their iStream concerts on their Facebook page. That's going to be tomorrow evening at 6. I hope you agree that this has been a great way to wrap up the first National Public Radio Music Day, celebrating the role the public radio stations play in bringing together listeners with great music. So thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.